take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Welcome to Life in Red.
When I was trying to think of the perfect thing to start this podcast with, and I was just going to say, we're just going to get straight to the meat of things, or straight to the meat of it.
Awesome. I'm good with that.
That was not the reaction.
Straight to the meat of things.
Yeah. Jonnel Sloane joining me, owner of Farm to Fork.
Yes.
I'll let you explain it because you're going to do a much better job than I could ever do it.
Yes, Farm to Fork is a locally based, Ottawa-based e-commerce business, and we offer naturally raised meats, premium seafood, raw pet food, delivered right to your door. We service Ottawa, Montreal, surrounding areas, and through another distributor, Northern Shopper, we ship up to Nunavut, about 10 communities we serve.
Oh, wow. So, wow. So I was really excited when we spoke about getting you on, because I found the conversation around meat really fascinating. We were talking about it a little bit off mic, but just, there's so much to it, right? With the rise of kind of veganism, and now you see some people trying this carnivore diet. There's always been the battle between like hunters and animal rights advocates, factory farm. Like there's just so much to get into, and it just comes to simple meat. So I was really interested to have you on and talk about some of the stuff. Let's start though, like, how does one fall into the meat business? Because I don't think a lot of people, when you're a kid, it's like, what are you going to do when you grow up?
So I was in my early 20s. I lived in the States, and I was a music promoter. We promoted raves and clubs. So
oh, wow. Okay.
I did that all the way through my 20s. Got burnt out of that. Basically living like a rock star lifestyle, which we were. And I had a production company called Poster Boy Productions, and I basically in 2000 I just left that business. Didn't know what to do. Moved back from Arizona to Seattle. Went back to school for 2 years, and then got bored of school. I had a friend that I ran into. And he's like, here, I'm working for this company. We're selling meat door to door. And I was like, meat door to door? What are you talking about? It's like, no, come down, man. It's totally we make a ton of money. And I was like, all right, whatever, man. Okay. So I went down there, and the guy that was managing the shop was an old friend, like a good friend from high school that we'd lost touch from. I was like, oh, my friend Dallas. And so we went, he's like, oh, Jonnel, come here. We haven't seen each other for a long time. We said our hellos and, kind of got caught up. And he brought me out that day, and he showed me how to make, he went out and made like $800 in a day. I was like, wow, this seems so easy. He's like, oh, you can do the same thing. And so I just kind of fell into that, started doing that. And then I started working as a national sales trainer for companies where I would travel and sometimes travel with the owner. These are companies that had like 10 offices nationwide in major metropolitan cities in the U.S. and just traveled around. I worked in 35 U.S. states. So I did that for, then just year after year, kept doing it because it was just good money.
Sales, absolutely.
It was sales. And so, we had the opportunity. We moved to Canada in 2010. I couldn't legally work here until 2014, right around there, where I got my permanent residency and got my work permit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go back and work in the States again, and I'd be away from home, and I was doing the same thing. I had the idea to start the same business here in Canada. So
right, okay.
Yeah, so I had a ton of connections down there in the industry, and I convinced 2 producers out of Chicago. And one of them ended up coming up with the export labels, and they started exporting product that was U.S. beef and pork. That's the only thing they could do at the time. You couldn't do seafood or chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And got a cold storage. I went and we had nothing when we moved to Canada. I went and took my Walmart credit card, my first Canadian credit card that I got. Wow. Your credit doesn't follow you anything here. So it was completely starting over. So yeah, we had nothing. I'm coming here blindly. I had no idea that it was much different than,
and
I thought it was going to be so much like the U.S. and it
was
totally different.
So no one gave you that, hey, here's how Canada works.
Total culture shock in many ways, you know. And so I went and put a down payment on a truck and got the truck, convinced this company to ship meat up here, and just started doing door to door here. And that's how we started. We started as a company called Home Food Solutions. And I did that for about a year and a half. And then kind of fast forwarding, I was going around and I was knocking doors and traveling to all these little smaller cities outside of Ottawa. And everybody's like, oh, can you get grass-fed beef? Can you get, we're looking for local. Can you get pasture-raised chicken? Can you get, like, all these terms? I was like, yeah, this sounds great. This meat, no, I don't know where to get it, So I was like, light bulb went off, and I was like, I don't want to sell the product that I was doing in the U.S. It wasn't the best product in the first place. It was just conventional products. People here were not very receptive to it as they were in the States. It's a different kind of consumer out there. Wasn't doing as well as I thought I was going to do with what comparative to how I used to do in the States, sales wise. Right. And so I started seeking out, sought out my first producer. He was in Smith Falls area, and he owned a farm and a slaughterhouse there. Went and showed him the U.S. product that I had, and he was amazed. He was like, wow, this is so cool, like full color boxes and all vacuum sealed, and then these, looked like it was meat that was replicated. There was companies in the States called like Omaha Steaks, and some of these, meat, they ship meat nationwide, and they have stores, and same kind of concept, like all portion controlled, vacuum sealed, looks pretty in these nice, plastic vacuum seal molds. And so he said, yeah, we can replicate that. Replicated it, and started the oil fell, the whole oil industry here in Canada fell, like the bottom fell out. So the dollar used to be almost on par with the Canadian dollar. That was during that kind of time.
Yeah.
This is like 2013, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Things started to kind of collapse. And I was no longer viable to have meat shipped up because it totally flip-flopped the currency exchange. And I kind of saw that coming. Didn't really want to sell that product. Wanted to get more into the local aspect anyway. So I started working with this guy in Smith Falls. Outgrew him right away. They couldn't keep up. Went to another supplier that was in Alexandria, like outside of Cornwall. Yeah. They were a federal producer. He was buying some of the products from them anyway, some of the raw material. Now, it wasn't all like local beef or chicken or pork. It was some of the raw material. It was still high-quality Canadian product that was, from some of the local producers. They saw how much volume I was moving. All of a sudden, this guy's sales had increased. It was like, it was from you. We know it was from you. And so I went with them, started working with this company, outgrew them. I was buying for my seafood from another place called La Pointe's Fish that used to be here in Ottawa. They used to have they have the restaurant still, but right
down the street from here. Yeah,
exactly. So, but they used to be a wholesaler too and provide wholesale to all the restaurants in the area and stuff. They got bought out, acclimated, and got bought out by Cisco, and they're operating like they got sent to Montreal. So.
Gotcha.
The owner, though, of the Points was like, hey, we're starting to work with Cisco. We got bought out by them. And, they have this plant in Toronto. It's a further processing plant. That was Derma Meats that we were talking about off camera. Go to them. They're just starting out. I was like, dude, they're not going to work with me. I'm just like some door-to-door guy that's like, like just hucking meat door-to-door going out every day. Like, they're not going to take me seriously. So he got me a meeting with their GM. I went out to Toronto, took my truck out there, took out some of the products I was getting from the company out in Alexandria, showed them. They were like, okay, cool. We just want to see your sales. I already had done like $244,000 in sales that year. So
oh wow! And that was just doing like door to door.
Yeah. So, and they were like, cool, we'll work with you. And I was like, that's where kind of everything took off. Where I started working with bigger packaging plants.
Right.
Started adding more products. Started adding more organic products. I found an organic supplier out of these farms. Rentel Farms was one of them. Voltageur's Chicken, like organic. Started adding all these new products and started kind of expanding the whole product line. And then we grew. I partnered with Northern Shopper, which is a company that ships goods, meats, everything you can think of under the sun up to Nunavut. They service about 10 communities up there. They were looking for a supplier that was like a good solution for their meat because everything we did was all portion controlled, set weights, and that's very important with them to have all the weights to set price because it helps with all the because the government's very strict with
and you probably
their paperwork and
pay
weights
by weights and
exactly.
Yeah.
So we started working with them. Great relationship. We moved into the same building, and we bought a walk-in freezer together. Great relationship. And we've continued to grow. I started our Facebook page during this time. I was like, cool, you can start a Facebook business page. And then I started just posting. So let me backtrack a little bit. So I hit my first winter here. This was like right end of 2013, was going to be coming farm to fork, end of 2013. Hit my first winter. This is where I found out about online marketing, and we had this like polar vortex.
I'm not going door to door for this.
And my wife goes, she goes. I go, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go to work today, and she's like, you're not going out there. It was like negative 40 out there, like with the wind chill. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. I'll go hit bars. I'll go hit, like whatever. I'll go into businesses. And I was out there for literally like a half hour. I was like, came back in. I was done.
Yeah.
Like, what do I got to do? This was like basically that storm, that whole like weather, like storm. And it lasted for like almost a week. So I got on Facebook. I joined all these garage sale groups. Every little city has one. Whether it's Cornwall, whether it's, they
community
all have Facebook
groups,
swaps, and just posted this ad called the Polar Vortex Special. I just took pictures of my 4 products I had. I only had these 4. I had 1 beef variety pack, 1 chicken, 1 pork, and it didn't have seafood yet. Actually, it was only 3. And it went like gangbusters. It was a trip. It was like, oh, these people will buy from me online through Messenger. Like, just they don't even know who
sketchy,
I am.
yeah.
Seems sketchy, but they won't at the door, and I have the product. Like, I was having a hard time selling here, like what I was used to in the U.S. I was really struggling.
Because I'm trying to the reaction of someone when you kind of walk up to the door, like, hey, do you want to buy my meat? But you're trying to explain yourself, but they're skeptical. They're looking at
different
you like
kind of consumer than you.
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
meat? Why are you here?
Totally different response. Totally different consumer. Kind of like Americans will, I compare Canadians, like they'll have money, they'll wait, they'll do all their investigation. I get people that wait like a year. They're like, oh yeah, we've been following you for a whole year, and then we decided to buy.
Really scoping out.
Oh, totally, totally different. Americans will have no money and they'll still buy because they're just like, they're totally marketed to totally different. Even if they can't afford it, they still buy stuff.
Here's my credit card.
Yeah, a lot of times it's like, like they'll buy and they can't afford it, and the card will go through just because they're caught up in the moment. It's totally different.
Oh wow.
So did really well with that. Light bulb went off again. I was like, I'm going to start a Facebook business page, and then I just started doing that week in and week out, posting on there. I was still doing door to door. Still marketing through the Facebook groups and redirecting people to our Farm to Fork Facebook business page. And then we got into, somebody showed me, hey, you can do like paid ads through Facebook. And I was like, cool. And we started gaining quite a few followers at that point. And then everything kind of blossomed, and it everything shifted from in the last couple of years into a sell on Facebook, go through groups, to a whole full-fledged e-commerce business that we
right.
And we just built a whole new website last year. Spent a ton of money on that. We have sales automation. We have email marketing now, all our digital marketing, things that we didn't have for the first couple years.
It's cool to
transform the business.
That process of
starting
with a pack of meat, going door to door, and then and then did you find all of a sudden there was this huge accelerate? Like you mentioned that you were kind of outgrowing the suppliers and to find a new one. Was there just kind of this moment where you're just like holy shit, here we go, it's really taken off?
Yeah, 2017. We really started hitting some good numbers, and we were we had a hokey website, and I was still doing ads through Facebook, but it was all paid ads, and we would just list our products on there, and just take orders through Messenger, and
right.
Facebook
okay.
Actually, when they came here to Ottawa, they did a Facebook advertising to create awareness for Facebook ads, and we were picked as one of the businesses because they couldn't believe that we did that much in revenue with no website and just doing paid ads and using Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
We were so intrigued by that, because most businesses traditionally e-commerce, it's they have all these different systems in place. And
it would be the reverse effect. Yeah, they would build everything and then go to Facebook and
be. Oh shoot, sorry.
Oh, that's all good. It's was this all you too? Was it you alone building all this on the Facebook? You're there every day, kind of grinding away all the time.
Basically, just grinded and just it was basically just went for it. Had to break it first before I knew how to do it. It was just that was the philosophy. didn't know what I was doing half the time, which was great, but because I learned a lot through all that.
Yeah.
It's just we're just one. I'm just one employee.
So you have no one else working with you?
Employees. I mean, we have a team that does like our email marketing and digital marketing.
Okay.
Stuff, but everything else I do, like our accounting stuff, I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
But any like the day-to-day sales and deliveries and everything else, I do everything.
Holy moly!
Yeah.
Is there like plan on adding more pieces, or like you like to keep things kind of close to?
So we bootstrapped everything up to this point. We're a debt-free company, which I'd wanted, and so we're right at that point, like most companies, where we've grown to a certain point. We've kind of plateaued 2 years in a row. Didn't quite hit the $1 million in revenue that we wanted to, and at that point, I know once I hit over that, I'm going to definitely need to add more employees, like either outsourced or actually have our own employees. Whether it's helping do with order fulfillment. Or otherwise. So our next plans are to go into Toronto, and we can have a depot there, and have a company that basically still don't have to have employees. We just have a company that manages that depot, and do the order fulfillment for it.
Okay.
Which is great.
So like I'm interested. Like we were talking a bit like off the top, and you kind of mentioned some buzzwords there, like grass fed, organic, and I think for the regular person who doesn't really understand, like they know it's kind of good, like they're like, oh yeah, organic, I know that's good. What is it about your service and what you're doing, and like that, like this organic and grass fed, like why does that make such a difference, and why is that kind of important to
it makes a huge difference on many levels, and it's environmentally is one, because regenerative farming is the way that we have to go. Like we have so many soils left, meaning like that so many times you can dig up the soil and plant new crops, and that has to do with farming too, and what you feed the animals also at the same time. Has to do with environmentally. Like I'm a strong proponent against like pesticides and the use of, and I think the overuse of definitely. And that's definitely something that goes on in big agriculture, and also the fact that for our bodies too, at the same time, when an animal's eating, grass purely, like that's truly what a cow is supposed to eat. It's not really. You're supposed to eat grains. I mean, we offer grain-fed beef. We have customers, like we have different collections with different products, because everybody has a different value system. That's what I call it. It's looking for something different.
Right. Yeah.
But truly, that's what an animal's supposed to eat is grass-fed. And on top of it, typically dealing with these farms that are more into regenerative agriculture, like whether they're growing grass-fed beef or they're raising animals with antibiotics or hormones or organically, there's the ethical treatment of the animals at the same time. And typically, as farmers, for practices that they're ethically treating their animals. So I can't think of the word right now, but. So I think there's so many different variables, there's so many different levels, and why that's.
Does it taste like a grass-fed cow? Like, does that steak, like, would you say it tastes bad? Like, is there a noticeable difference? Like, is it
grass-fed has a different taste? It's usually lighter. It can sometimes be even gamier. With grass-fed, it's very important to use animals that are under 30 months first, like usually steer. Like steer that's under 30 months. Okay. Angus is usually the best breed to use for grass-fed because they're predisposed genetically to be more fattier, so you're going to get a better flavor profile. So it's just, you got a lot of people out there that are selling like, oh, I have grass-fed beef, or I bought grass-fed beef, I didn't like it. I'm like, okay, so do you know what you bought? Like, because beef is not beef. Like, was it a dairy cow? Was it? Was it a Hereford, like a female cow that had? Was it? I mean, did a calf? Like,
they're just like, no.
Beef? Is it an older animal?
What are you talking about?
Yeah. So like a lot of these different variables can mean a lot in the way that the meat performs, whether it's tender, the flavor profile, and all those things.
Yeah, because. Again, we get fed these buzzwords. So again, Angus.
Yeah.
You go to like a burger chain, they're like Angus burgers. You're like, oh wow, Angus.
The term Angus can mean that could be a certain percentage of Angus, and the rest could be whatever. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, or like we're like organic's good.
Could be dairy cow mixed with Angus. You never know. Like it.
And most of the time, I'm like, I mean, I'll be like, I never know. Like if I go to get a steak, I don't know.
Most people don't know. And
I know it's sirloin or T-bone or ribeye. I don't know.
So that's where we come in, and we like to provide a lot of transparency with our company. Like we have at the bottom of our website, we have all our producers we work with and the packers. Very transparent about that. I love answering questions. I get all day long people messaging me through live chat, which is a function on our chat function on our website, where they're like, okay, and most consumers don't know, like they just know the buzzword.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Like,
no idea what I'm really putting in my body, or
about, and so they're like, oh, well, do they have hormones? I'm like, well, all animals have hormones, but are they fed extra? Are they given more hormone? I'm like, well, okay, well, in Canada, you're not allowed, if it's actually Canadian chicken or Canadian beef, you're not allowed to give hormones. So they just don't. But the fact is that the reason why the stores can't advertise that is because a lot of these, for example, like most of the big federal plants here in Canada are owned by American companies. They're JBS and Cargill. So on that feedlot, at any given time, there's animals from all different parts of the world. Like, it's not just like Canadian beef on that feedlot. It could be from the U.S., could be Argentina, it could be Australian, could be from all over the place. So that's the reason why they can't do that.
Right.
So, and it's the same thing with antibiotics. Like most beef, or Canadian beef, I believe the law is that you have to, 100 days before slaughter, they have to wean off any kind of antibiotics that we're giving. So there can be no traces of that.
Okay.
It's the same thing with chicken too. Like when it says free from chicken, there's a difference with raised without and free from. Free from is usually like chicken that's been, once again, it's before slaughter. They're tested, and they have to not have traces of antibiotics that were given.
Oh yeah. It's funny how uneducated we all are. I mean, not you, of course, but we all, like, as just a regular day person, we are to food.
Yeah.
And how we literally have no idea about anything. We just, again, those buzzwords, we just see it. Most people just look at the price. We're like, oh, yeah, okay, that's like $5. I'll get that.
Most consumers are price driven, right? And
yeah.
They understand what really goes into, like, the real cost of food, usually on something that's been from a small producer, that's been organically grown or grown without GMOs. There's always there's more cost involved because big ag does not subsidize those as much as those type of programs. So that's what drives the cost down. If you took away all those subsidies and the way that they're structured, like the cost of food, the true cost of the same meat that you get in the store, usually it's conventional or factory farm, would be the same cost as like many of the free from or organic
right
that you see.
Oh man,
at the same time,
yeah.
There's so much. That's where I love to educate people as much as the knowledge that I know or I've learned. And I've learned all this stuff throughout the process of my company, which has been great. It's been cool too, because I've learned all these things, like from working with all these different producers and farmers, and and I'm constantly always looking for, wanting to learn new things about, this. And there's tons of stuff. Like, it's like, you can't even
Is there other podcasts, like YouTube, if you're not connected with the media industry at all, or like that world, like, is there a lot of education going on with all that stuff?
There's a couple different podcasts out there right now that are out. What is his name? Joel Salz. Joe Rogan's talked about him before too. And he's a good source of information with that. So it's all like focuses on regenerative farming and ethical farming, and there's you can search a lot of that stuff, and there'll be stuff that will come up, like if you really want
to figure it out. I think it's because the big thing. So when you look at like those documentaries that kind of go viral, especially
on Netflix,
right, like especially pertaining to veganism, and I personally do not have anything against vegans. If that's the life they choose to live, that's fine. But when, and I admit I was not educated about the subject either beforehand when it comes to, like, you mentioned the word before slaughter, and I think a lot of people were like, would probably get up in arms that you even say that word.
Yes.
It's, like, there's a difference between, again, you mentioned ethically sourced and versus
or raised or sourced or
versus factory, which is what we see is, like, the main issues, I think, really has to do with that factory farming, where you're pumping the animals full of this crap and this cramped lifestyle and this unnatural life.
Yeah, definitely unnatural. They're not in their natural. They're not allowed to be in any kind of natural habitat. They're being confined. They're being force-fed.
Where if they're running around, happy, eating grass, like playing with the other cows.
Correct. Like, especially with beef. Like, they're an animal that has to be, like, has to have some kind of pasture.
Yeah.
So.
And I've heard with, like, I mean, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I've heard, like, with chicken, I just heard with chicken, but, like, the difference of taste when they are like they're free running and they're just running around and they're happy and they're all in the versus like the factory one.
Let me tell you something. Like most people that are saying that, like, so free run chicken, unless you got a couple chickens and you're just on a hobby farm, yeah, you can let them run around for the most part. But even chickens that are, they say pastured raised, they put them in these things called chicken tractors. So they're these enclosures and they move them around the field. And they're allowed to, they usually, like, they put them in the field usually with cattle. That's what I've seen. And they'll clean up the grass and they'll do their thing. But they always have grain inside, like some kind of grain silo they're still feeding them.
Okay.
A lot of people that are misinformed that they think that.
Well, free run.
I get all the time people, I'm looking for pasture-raised chicken. And that's grass or grass-fed chicken. I'm like, there's no such thing. Chickens would die if they didn't eat some sort of grain. Like, they can't just eat bugs and at the field.
Okay.
Like, just when
they need some grain.
They wouldn't grow into like meat birds that would be able to be viable for eating. You know, they just wouldn't. So I tell people that usually it's like these chicken and then in Canada, there's no, like during the winter, there's not. They haven't been barns.
Yeah.
They're able to free roam within barns. And then there's certain other requirements if they're organic, like the water that they feed them has to be not a purified water, but what's the word for it? Like it's so like they have to be fed like purified water and other things like that too.
So it seems like Canada is doing an okay job, I guess, if you look comparatively to the States when it comes to meat. Like, is that fair to say? Or
I'd say there's certain requirements that are a little bit stricter, but as the most part, from what I've learned, is it's not
okay.
And a lot of these companies are like a lot of the big plants are American owned, anyways,
right?
Or they kind of control the whole big agriculture America does.
Yeah, like those big companies, like they kind of own us. Like they
do.
They're gonna do whatever they want. They just kind of
they do. A lot of that's shifted and changed like over the years. So,
yeah.
Like here in Canada.
Do you receive any pressure or anything from that type of stuff, or you're just still kind of like
pressure as far as what, like
from them? Maybe like they're like, I don't know, I'm not business deals or anything, or if they're trying to
really like. So if I was on a podcast and started talking, about
like, hey, I heard you talking.
They really care, and and there's always consumers that are still don't care. They're price driven, right? They're not value. They don't. It's not value system driven. It's more price driven. That's what I call it. So. That's what I tell people. If you're looking for, like with our collections, like our naturally raised collection, if you're looking, shift your value system. Yes, it costs more because that's just the true cost of that food and that process, how that meat is.
Mm-hmm.
But so you shift your value system so you don't do other things that you spend money on that you're probably wasteful and not good for you in the first place, and you eat better, So.
Yeah, it sounds like a giant sales ad, but like I went on, I'm like, it's not like that bad. Like when you consider again all those things we were just talking about, when I was looking at prices, I'm like, I think like there was like 4 packs of steak for I don't know how much it was, but I was like, oh, like it's very reasonable,
pretty competitively priced. Because I'd say compared to even to some of the stores, might a little bit more, but we're also offering home delivery. We're offering everything's cut and portioned. The quality, bar none, is better than most any big box store, and I validate that claim, and I would put it to the test, and we offer the home delivery at the same time, so the convenience of that,
right.
You don't have to go out, you don't have to hunt in the stores, where you just go online, put in your cart, click, and then we come deliver, and we do a 1 to 3 day turnaround here in Ottawa. Montreal, we do every Saturday. We go out there. We have quite a bit of clientele out there too.
Is that right? Well, I think it's as we become more informed as people. So when I mean by that, we talk about those documentaries, or we talk about podcasts or social media. We're definitely learning. It's slow because, like, I admit I don't know shit about meat, but other than that, I like it and it tastes good. But we have that information at our fingertips where we start learning the dangers and the harm that cheap meat, why it's so cheap? Well, because of all these kind of issues that we really don't like as a society.
Yes.
So, someone who's coming in and offering that, like, it's ethically raised, I think that's a big thing for me that I know. I'm like, do I love the fact that we kill animals to eat? I'm like, not necessarily, but like at the same time, like, I'll get some flack for saying it, but animals and humans are not equal. We're not equal.
Yeah.
You know, like, you watch a nature documentary, the lion is not going up to the gazelle being like, hey man, like, it's all good.
Not at all.
Like, right? Like, we are carnivorous, we're omnivores, but humans need meat to survive.
We've been eating meat for thousands of years since,
you know,
really
so
the beginning of mankind.
To know that,
relying on that as a food source. You
know? Yeah, so to know that the animal, you know, at least lived its life
correct,
happy, like that, for me, that's a big thing. So it's interesting that, you know, I think what you're doing, like offering this alternative solution, because even in the stores, like, if I go to look for it, like, it's not necessarily even easy to find.
And you don't really know, like, if the stores are trying, you're seeing some of the big brands, I'm not going to mention them, and even some of the big box stores, and they are coming up with, you know, organic, they have organic meat, or they have free from, you know, with free from is raised without antibiotics, vegetarian grain fed, chicken's air chilled, you know, items like that. So they are starting to offer, you know, chicken and beef and some pork, but there's still not a lot of transparency involved with that. It's just, they're marketing terms. You still don't know, you know, if you go to one of the big box stores, you don't know if that chicken came from Brazil or the U.S. or Canadian.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important. I think consumers want to know, they want the full traceability where, down to where that was grown, what farm it came from.
I think a lot of people,
you know, I believe that's something and I think that's something they should know.
That if it was up to, am I supporting the big factory or am I supporting?
They have a choice.
My neighbor.
And I'm not saying go ahead if you want to. If that's your value system and you don't care about that, I'm cool with that. You know, it's just. But I believe that consumers should at least have an alternative and have a choice to know.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody is searching for a type of meat, whether it's organic or free from, and they want to also know the value system associated with it, how it was grown, where it was grown, what farm it came off, I think they should know that.
Yeah.
I think they should have that traceability, definitely. So.
I don't know if you know the answer, but is it easy, or is there a way, like if I bought chicken from Costco, like is there like any way where you could trace it, or it's like pretty much like I'm just throwing it up in the air?
What I know as far as chicken,
or beef or whatever,
this is what I've been told by big producers that we deal with, like Dharma Meats, and which is owned by Cisco, and in Canada, chicken producers can only produce for about a third of the population. It's on a quota system, so anything after that they sell, that's Canadian chicken. So only a third of the Canadian population comes up from either Brazil or the U.S. Brazil is one of the biggest chicken producers in the world.
Seems weird.
So a lot of times you could be eating Brazilian chicken,
and there's like no way to tell.
You can't tell that. No, they don't know that. They don't want you to know that.
Right.
I think that they don't want you to know that.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, it'd be bad for business.
For business.
Because I think a lot of people with the choice, if they knew they could support a farm in Brazil or support a farm in Canada.
Yeah, of course they would. Canadians would be like, and we get shafted here, man. Like, Canadians really would like to support Canadian products.
And
there
you get
more of Canadian products, and there's less.
Yeah, you get into those trade war conversations, which I know nothing about.
Yeah.
But like when you hear about import export versus like NAFTA New Deal with the U.S. Export import with China, like all these different things going on. That like, I mean, it'd be a lot easier if we just like, went to the store and bought like it from the neighbor or through you, that like, because especially where we live in Ottawa, we're very like outside the city is very farm rural heavy. Like there's a lot of people. Yeah.
And I couldn't believe when I got here how little farming there was, and how a lot of the abattoirs that are still operating, that are servicing local farms, and bless their heart, they're doing what they need to do. And I don't blame them for pumping a bunch of money into their abattoir to basically get with the times, like, so there's so much land here and there's so little market here. That's why people are like, well, why don't you deal with local smaller auto? I said, one, they can't produce enough. Two, there's a bunch of reasons for that: government regulations, costs.
Oh, okay.
Plus they're not, a lot of these farmers aren't business people at the same time.
Yeah.
And farming is really hard work. And when are they going to find time to?
Right. Especially like younger,
how to run a business.
Younger people
aren't going to want to do that. Right? Like, I'm sorry.
What do you mean I can't tell the cow on my phone to go?
No, they're not going to want to go at 4 o'clock in the morning and do, like they just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Why would they want to? So, and then the abattoirs and slaughterhouses that are even left here are usually, it's like older people running it, and it's like they have there's a way of thinking.
Yeah.
I don't want to put anybody down, but it's just like I found that in my journey starting out here locally, and then like as I grew and tried to push people to do things, to, hey, let's do this, let's partner, let's do that, they wouldn't do it. It's like they wanted to stick to what they've been doing and how it worked. And,
right.
And I'm like, okay, well, you got all these companies in Toronto and outside Toronto, bigger farms and bigger producers and packing plants and stuff like that. Why can't Ottawa have that?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why are we this, like, you know, bastard child between Montreal and Toronto? Like, you know, and we've had conversations with a couple farmers, and they're trying to push for that. One, what would be very beneficial here would to have a bigger federal plant with some modern equipment to be able to do some really further processing and packaging and stuff to help support the farming communities here, to really work together business to really build some brands here and to where it could be really brought up to a level and be accessible all the time, you know, for the most part too, for consumers.
Is there resistance to that? Like,
of course there is.
Which is,
the government regulations here are crazy. Like, I've seen what these plants deal with, that they have to deal with, even the smaller, like, provincial plants.
Yeah.
Government regulations, they get regulated to death. You know, it's like, I'm not a big fan of that. That's something out of me, like, kind of pisses me off.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's the American,
US,
it's the American
yeah,
in you. Yeah.
It's like Americans, you couldn't sell some Iowa farmer who's had his farm for 4 generations or more, some USDA inspector to come on his farm and tell him, like, you can't do this, you can't slaughter your own animals, you can't if you do slaughter your animals, you can't sell it to your neighbor, or you can't even feed your neighbor, have him over for dinner. You know, he'd tell you to get the fuck off his land.
Are these actually like a real?
Those are real things here. Like, you could.
Oh my god! I had
like,
no
so
idea.
You have to have everything. You can't slaughter your own animals. You have to run it through a provincial or a federal plant, which federal plants you're not even. There's none here. And you have to be on such a massive scale to be able to book in animals into a federal plant anyways.
Right.
And you have to, so it has to go through a provincial plant to be slaughtered and packaged. It has to have that plant number of that plant on there. Then you can sell the product. You can't slaughter it yourself. You're technically not even supposed to, even if you did slaughter your own animal, you can do it for yourself or your own family. But if I say I wanted to have you over, Ryan, for dinner, I'm technically not supposed to. The government considers it to be a hazard if I was to feed you my beef that I slaughtered on my own property. That's my understanding. This is what I've been told by many farmers, and
right.
You know, that you can't even technically do that. Now, are they going to regulate that? I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be hard, but yeah.
But
still,
that's the mindset. You know, and that kills a lot of innovation, I feel.
Yeah.
It really strong arms the farmers. It limits their ability to really get their goods to market. You know, the farmers markets are great. I think they're awesome. I think they're something that's a necessity. But I don't think these farmers are killing it at these farmers markets. I think they're there just for marketing purposes.
Well, and there's a ton that don't really even. There's not a lot of meat when you go to them.
I don't think they make any money either.
Yeah,
and they're not a lot of meat.
It's lots of vegetables and pies and cookies.
There's quite a few different, I see, but it's not. I walk through there. I've walked through there many different times over the years, and on the Sunday when they have the farmers market there during the summer, and it's like I don't see them killing it, like selling tons of meat out of there. I see them like, hey, I bought a chicken breast and I bought
yeah.
pound of hamburger from you, and we'll try you out,
Right.
And
it's that that's how we built this country, this North America, right? Farmers, that's how we did things, through the 1800s, 1900s, and to all of a sudden, there's no incentive really to go into farming.
No,
really.
There's no really money here. I mean, the only thing that I've seen that you can make any kind of money from it would be dairy or some of the grain farming.
Right. Okay.
It's subsidized, I believe, so it's on quota systems and stuff like that. But say you want to start a big cattle operation, you want to do any kind of, most cattle farmers here, they back up, or they're growing cattle and then they're selling them at auction to the bigger producers. But to process the animals and find a market once it's processed, to the end direct to consumer, being like a farm to consumer. There's no money in it. No consumer. And then people always have this idea that they're going to go to the farm or they're going to get it for so much less. I'm going to buy a whole beef and it's going to be so much less. It's not. It costs more. It costs more than what the meat costs in the store. Because there's a lot more that goes into it.
Wow.
You know, like the feed or the farm, just the animals, anything. You know, if they don't have, the animals aren't born on the farm. They have to go source an animal. Usually it's younger. They have to bring it onto the farm. They have to, if they're doing grain finishing, if they have to finish it, there's feed. Same thing with pigs, with pork, with chicken, everything. It's expensive. Like, you know, the costs are not, it's hard to do. You know, there's not a lot of return on it. So, like I said, what's the incentive to go into it? Then it's not supportive. Like, you know, it's the slaughterhouses and the abattoirs. They're, you know, I'm going to say they're, you know, it's archaic in a lot of ways. You know, they're not with the times. They don't have the equipment. They don't have, you know, so then you're limited there. Then you're limited. Okay, now I got to get my products to market. What are the channels out there? You know,
and you're just some guy who grew up on the farm and took it over from his dad or something, and you're just
people
like
have this idea, like, oh, I'm just going to go to the local farm,
and
buy my 10 chickens, and that's going to support the farmer. Like, it doesn't work that way. The farmer has to sell thousands of chickens to make make money. Otherwise, they're just doing it as a hobby, and they usually have something else going on or another business.
Yeah, I know a guy I work with. He has a hobby farm.
Yeah, which is cool.
And he'll bring in like the eggs from the hens and stuff too, and we'll $4 for a dozen and support him, and that's always fun.
Yeah, but some of these farmers, I talk to them. I have here locally, and I still do have conversations with them, and they want to bring stuff to. They want to actually ramp up their programs and have these great programs, you know, and make a living out of it, not just, you know, a hobby. Hobby farm's not going to support and pay their bills. You know,
what sort of clientele do you? I'm sure it's, but like, what's your kind of like, if you know the base number of kind of average age? Because I'm wondering.
So we're 25. I just got asked this question today.
Okay.
Like, we're like, you know, anywhere I see on our marketing, because we have data that we can read, anywhere from 25 to 65. We have people
wide
buying
range
for various reasons. You know, we got a lot of the older population. They'll buy because the meat used to taste a certain way and perform a certain way back. You know, and they've gotten so tired of it that they're looking for something different. You got a lot of the younger crowd. They're looking for the value system. They want stuff that's free from antibiotics. They want no added hormones. They want organic. You know, they want stuff that's pastured. They want stuff that was ethically, you know, animals were ethically treated, humanely treated. You know, like I find that's the younger demographic. I find the younger demographic is they really want to know with anything. They want transparency with anything that they buy.
Yeah, it's huge.
They really want to know it's huge. You know, any kind of e-commerce doesn't just have to do with meat.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's why a lot of these companies that are coming out, all these e-commerce businesses and stuff, and they have these great stories and these great brands and this, you know, a mission too is attached to it, or, you know, whether it's something they support, or, you know, either it's an environmental issue or like, people want to support that nowadays. They want to know that. Yeah,
that goes right into the whole buying decision. Like, you know, makeup, hair products,
anything, hair products, anything.
Yeah, like people are like, okay, what do you do? What's going on behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes,
you know, I mean, Apple and Amazon still do well, but it's like, you know, once you start looking into the backstory, you know, Bell Let's Talk Day, this stuff about Bell just came up about abusing like prison workers with. So a little off track, but basically, so Bell Let's Talk Day, some guy published a story in the Globe and Mail, actually he's from Ottawa, about how Bell basically is ripping off prisoners, like, I think they're using their labor.
So
like,
using prison labor. So
yeah.
For what?
I'm not sure exactly, but also like charging them super high to use the prison phones. And like charging the families out like the nose to use these prison calls and stuff. Because it came up spontaneously, I didn't have the information.
They do the same thing in the States. Like there's companies that are these big companies
but
that have the phone system monopolized and they charge. Like,
when you look into that value system of a company, like the bigger you are, it's like the shadier you definitely do. A lot of young people are like, I'm out. I'm not.
Exactly.
I'll use a flip phone if I have to. Then use Apple.
Yeah. It's more and more. You're seeing it.
Yeah.
You know. So. And
I was kind of wondering about the age, because like my perception, I'm sure it's still true for a lot of young people, is like a lot of them, like I've heard it, don't know. Like meat comes from an animal sometimes, right? Like meat, it's from the grocery store. I come in and I get the steak, and I don't necessarily know that steak that I'm about to eat was actually on a living animal. Like that, that whole connection is like not there for them.
No.
And it's just
not like that with a lot of products, you know, in general. Like,
I guess it's true, yeah.
You know, consumers, the way that they're marketed to nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely with meat, they don't know. They don't know the whole process, and a lot of people want to know, or they want to have some knowledge of it.
Yeah, just a base, like, okay,
you know?
I know what this means. I know what this means. I know if I'm going to buy this, it's good for me or better for me or the environment or whatever it is that they choose to support.
Different value systems for different people, and you know, I can really respect that. We try to model our company around that, like with the products that we carry.
Right. There's some interesting ones too. When I was going through it, like you didn't have it like as at the time that we're doing this, which is in early February. There was none of this there, but I was looking before, and there was like elk and bison. And there were some other like cool things. Yeah.
Bison, we had boar bacon.
Yeah, like stuff like that.
We just got rid of our specialty meat section. It just didn't sell. It was like constantly a battle of like just expensive.
Interesting.
Like, bison take like 5 years to grow. So
right. Okay.
It's so expensive, and people don't really have a grasp on. And there's not a lot of people producing bison, so they don't really have a grasp on what process is entailed in growing a bison or running a bison farm. Much different than cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why
we carried those products for years, but we always found that we were always having to discount to find a home for them, and I just made it. It was a hard decision.
Yeah,
there were products I love. Like
I've never had any of it. Is it?
It's great.
Yeah,
it's highly nutritious. Elk and bison are like extremely highly nutritious. They have a lot higher omega-3s. The vitamin mineral profiles, because they're more nutritious, like is way higher than beef.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in many ways. So.
And it sucks because you're right. It's like it's not accessible here, so people just don't know about it.
No, they just don't, and they don't. You know, more and more they're finding out through like there's a lot of people that are talking a lot more about elk and bison, keto diets, carnivore diets that are really preaching a lot of that.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was definitely something I wanted to transition to.
Okay,
the carnivore diet.
Yeah,
are you on it? Have you tried it?
So I stick to, I'm not going to lie to you. I stick to like mostly a keto or a carnivore diet.
Okay.
And I do very little carbs. I find for me, for the way my brain functions, especially beef, grass-fed beef, functions so much better. I have ADHD.
Okay.
And, you know, so I find that it's almost calming. I can't really describe it by eating when I eat beef. And I stay away from a lot of sugars and processed sugars, and carbs and wheat and things like that.
Yeah.
If I do eat wheat and things like that, it's going to be definitely organic. We eat organic foods in our house.
Yeah, you're an educated consumer,
right
so
yeah. When I'm not eating stuff that's not, my body tells me.
Is that right? Because for those who don't, honestly, like obviously the carnivore diet is like strictly meat and to a lot of
fats
and fats.
Yeah. And there's something to that because I know for my brain, the way it's wired, like fats, like I need a lot more. I function way better.
Is that okay?
Higher fats,
because like that's like counterintuitive to you eat your veggies, you know.
Yeah.
But like there are people doing it. I don't know because there's not a lot of long-term study. Obviously, it's all kind of anecdotal with people's experience.
I listened to a lady that was on. She was on a podcast. She's been doing the carnivore diet since like 2010. It was amazing.
Wow. Oh shit.
Things that she's experienced, like not only the weight loss, but just things like as far as like same thing with Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you follow his daughter too. To talk a lot about that and how like certain ailments that they have,
the autoimmune disorders and stuff. Yeah,
overcame with that.
So that's what's so fascinating by it. But it seems relatively new to me anyway. Yeah. How many people have been trying it forever? Because again, doctor, your mom, everyone says eat your vegetables. So that runs like just counterintuitive to that whole narrative you've been fed your whole life.
Yes.
Right. What is the like the dietary things like the food pie or whatever they used to call it before they changed it? Pyramid. Thank you.
They found out that was
bad.
Bad.
Don't eat that much carbs.
Yeah. It's basically formulated by the grain like General Mills and these companies that were trying to get rid of excess grain.
Not surprised.
Created cereal companies and things like that. That came out with that.
So it's interesting to like speak to someone who's kind of tried something like that and that you've like what kind of things like I know you said it feels better and how your brain's wired, but like, what are some of the types of things that you experience? More energy, like better sleep, like that type of stuff?
More energy, better sleep. I'm calmer. I don't have dips. There's not the dips and valleys with my energy. I find that when I'm eating a lot more carbs or sugar, I stay away from it. Even if it's organic sugars, I stay away from it. I get more of like that instant satiated feeling. Yeah. I feel good, but then it just like this more of a crash or like crash.
Right. Okay. So do you eat vegetables? Or like
I do. Not as much, but we do some.
Interesting.
So my diet consists of like usually in the morning it's like organic eggs that are from a local farm, from Beeking's Poultry. Eat organic bacon, and I eat all the fat. I put a ton of organic butter in my eggs. It grosses out my wife. I'll sit there and eat a chunk of butter.
Oh,
it's good for me. Yeah. For me, I know that works.
Yeah, especially when
it's been so demonized for so long too.
Well, whatever happened there in the 80s with the margarine industry.
Just in general, like that, it's like, oh, you're eating fat, like fats. But my wife even still thinks the same thing. She's like, I gotta lose weight. I'm just not going to eat. And I'm just like, honey,
no, that's bad.
No, that's bad. Eat higher protein. Quit eating so many carbs.
Yeah. It's, there was I wish I remember, there's a great documentary where it was talking about all that stuff and how it was all just to do with like food lobbying and that like they like the Heart Institute science was like totally wrong when it came to like fats causing cardiovascular.
Correct.
And that was like, it's all been debunked. And
they've come out with tons of studies now.
Yeah, but people still live by that truly. Like they fat free.
In our culture.
It's
like, it's totally ingrained.
Like honestly, I have pretty much zero trust for the food industry. Like I mean, it's essential, but like honestly, I'm just like, man, like.
Well, they're driven by dollars.
Yeah. And I have no clue what's going on.
It's to appease the shareholders and increase the stock value, and that's what it is. And it's whatever by all means necessary.
Literally,
but consumers control that though. It's like they have a lot more control than they think they do.
Yeah, they just if you do a little bit of research and see. I don't think people realize like how much power, but you kind of need everyone to do it collectively or a majority to shift that.
You definitely,
and it's hard.
Yeah,
like a company like Amazon. Like it's hard to shift off that mindset with the convenience and the price and the right with the economy and everything's tight. Like it's not easy to shift your behavior and routine. And I've talked about it a bunch on the podcast, but if anybody who's studied anything into people, to get people to change their behavior,
people are creatures of habit.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is like moving a mountain. Like it's so hard.
That goes back to one of the things when I was doing door to door. In the States, we would drive 2 hours out. There'd be no grocery stores. You'd show up with meat, and they'd buy everything on the truck. They're like, because it makes sense to them, because they don't want to drive 4 hours to do a grocery run. Here in Canada, everything's so spread out. The population's less. People are so used to that, and I couldn't understand that. I would drive out 2 hours out here, and people were like, thought I was from where'd you come from? Where you're from? I don't have a store. Yeah, I'm like, where do you do your grocery shopping out here, guys? Like, I'm like, this is crazy. Like people want
the gas station.
They're like, oh, we take our trip in our coolers in 2 hours and we go drive.
Yeah, it's wild, eh?
I'm like, that's wild to me. Like where I came from, it is, but here it's not. That's normal. It's creature to habit. Yeah. They don't want to change their ways. You know? They just like that's normal.
Well, and you mentioned like shipping up to Nunavut and stuff like that. Like if you go to grocery stores there too, like it's.
Those
atrocious.
Those poor people get worked over. It's that's another like total I've seen like greed model. That's like,
holy moly.
It's like poor quality for the highest price.
Yeah, $35 for some milk.
And they do it because people, it's like get away with it. Like, we're selling our products up there for almost on par what you get in the store, and it's like totally like that's why we've been so successful up there. Like extremely successful. People message me all the time for Nunavut, and they're like, oh. We didn't have your meat for a week. We were freaked out because we didn't want to go to the store. We waited, before we could get our shipment up there. And
wow.
Yeah, they're like, it's hard to go back to eating that way once you start eating another way too. It's very hard. Like your body tells you right away, like, hey, this is not right. What are you putting in me? How are you eating? This doesn't feel right.
It's so interesting.
Your taste, your flavor profile.
Yeah, everything. I would love to because we just don't get enough studies around this type of stuff, but like to understand the lasting impacts of what we're putting into our body right now, like with the processed sugar, the refined carbs, white breads, Like,
yes,
what that is actually doing. Like, you know, you get the conspiracy theories, whether they're true or not, I don't know, but like the rise in ADHD and autism and all this stuff might to do with our food
allergies, everything.
Yeah, like all this stuff that they're
younger,
that are,
you know? So there's got to be something to that, right?
And like, will we ever get the study?
Like when we were younger, and I mean, I think I'm older than you, Ryan, definitely. But like, you know, staple was peanut butter and jelly sandwich at school. Like,
all right,
you know, you didn't have a lot of money, and you ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They were everywhere. Most kids had them. You know, kids with little money, they had the deli meat sandwiches, you know, and so now you can't even bring up peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
And they're all banned.
They're all banned.
Yeah.
You know? Like, nobody really talks about that. Like, why is that? You know, where did these peanut allergies come from? You know,
or gluten insensitivity. That's a big one too. That I never heard about, but now everyone has it. Yeah,
everybody just had. No, I think it had to be a shift in way agriculture is being done. You know, whether it be GMO or pesticides, or I think it all has to. I don't really think it has to do with peanuts themselves if they were grown organic, or you know, wheat if it was grown, you know, organically or grown differently than it used to, whether it's GMO or pesticides. You know, I don't think it has to do with that. Really, you know,
it'd be interesting, and if we
strong evidence to, you know.
Yeah, I wonder if in 50 years we look back and just be like, we fucked up.
Yeah.
And like what the damage will be. I mean, even like to an extent, a rise in cancer.
Well, you just look at like, you know, I think there definitely will be, and I think it's coming to that because you look at like even cigarettes, right? Like,
right.
Like back in, you know, 40s, 50s, like everybody was smoking on TV. They were smoking, like doctors were coming out saying it was healthy, it was okay, it was they're not addictive, you know. And it's like now everyone's like, yeah, we fucked up. Like that was not. They are. You know, they kill you, like, you know, like, so, and I think the same thing will happen with a lot of the foods. Like,
yeah,
it's always though after the fact, you know, and it's like, okay, we're on a new trend, we're going to let all the data out, the information. Yes, we were killing you, and
sorry, bad.
Bad. You know, it's like,
you know,
it's created this whole generations of these problems, you know, but you know, that's kind of how that works. Though.
Yeah,
that's human history, you know. Like,
yeah, there's, again, like, no one's educated about anything, so we don't know any better.
Yeah.
Like, you put your trust in the people making those regulations you were talking about. You put trust in your government. You put trust in the manufacturers and the producers.
Of course you do. Yeah.
And, I like I said,
trust, you know, it's like...
Yeah.
And it should be where, you know, that's why I appreciate when people take the time to actually dedicate themselves to certain causes, whether I agree with it or not. It's like they're, you know... As long as it's not a polarized thing, but they're pushing to have transparency. I think that should be a necessity. I think with consumers, definitely should have the ability to, okay, yeah, I think they should still have the decision. I don't believe that if somebody wants to smoke, they can smoke. These are the dangers. If you want to do this, you want to eat this way, these are your dangers, you know. This is what you're doing to your body. You know, here's the studies, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Have the information to make the decision.
Too. Like, you know, I believe on a lot of stuff on products. You
know? Yeah. It'd be interesting if one day,
like, you know, when you go in somewhere, this is made with GMOs. This is not made with GMOs. This is, you know, that's why I appreciate like the whole GMO labeling and stuff now.
Yeah.
You know, they have people have at least they're like, you know, companies are putting that label on there if they want it, if they're GMO free, to like, hey, our products are GMO free. So if you want to eat non-GMO products here, here's an alternative to what you can buy.
Yeah.
You know, from product A to product B. So,
yeah.
You know.
Vegans.
Yes.
They are actually...
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, so not that I'm against vegans or anything. So I have a whole... We can get into that.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested because I actually read an article yesterday saying vegans are the second most stigmatized group against, second to drug users. And I guess the stigma is that, you know, we all have the stereotype about veganisms and PETA and and all those things. And you know, I think there is a misconception that obviously not all vegans are like that, who will splash blood in your face and everything, but there are some of them out there, and some of them are aggressive. I'm wondering, like, I know your answer because we've been talking about it, like, you're not against them, but like, have you had, because they're aggressive and they target, so like, have you had
backlash?
Yeah,
we had a while back, we had So somebody decided to share our page, our Farm to Fork page. We're just a small business, right? Like here, that's local. On the worldwide vegan page on Facebook, like on a page that was like, I found out like, hey, this company, let's attack them, and all of a sudden I started getting all these people were messaging the customers that had like made comments on our posts. They were putting pictures of like murdered cows, people that were babies being slaughtered, like pictures like of, you know, they were mocked, they weren't real babies being slaughtered, but like saying this is what an animal goes through, and like, you know, women that were naked in positions like being milked like they were a cow, and like just all this like crazy shit, man. Like, you know, really like it was like vegan terrorism. That's what I can equate it to, right? Like, and posting all that, and I had to like, and then writing reviews, like going through and just damaging, trying to crash my reviews. Like, you know, we have perfect reviews from our customers. Like we have 5-star ratings, and so I had to take off the reviews. I had to delete all these people off the page, and it was nuts. It was very damaging, and, you know, a lot of work, and, you know, I had to take our review system off for a while, which we rely heavily on that.
Yeah.
People want to go, they go now to a page for a brand. They want to see what other people think of you.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Know? So, you know, thank God we haven't had any attacks since then. I hope this podcast.
Oh God, don't do it, people. I will not hashtag vegan.
And I had to explain, like, I really appreciate the lifestyle. I appreciate what you're looking to do. We are doing the same, that we are trying to represent products that are in the same direction, ethically raised. I understand that, you know, you don't eat any. That's great. Like, you don't eat animals. I'm okay with that. You know? Like, so there's benefits to that too, you know. So, but it was just, it's horrible. You know, we got attacked. Like, So, well, I didn't know that kind of element. I kind of figured it existed, but I didn't realize it was that extreme.
Do you remember the story of Antler in Toronto?
No.
Oh, so Antler is it was a newer restaurant in Toronto.
What's with the deer?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Cutting the deer in the window. He just takes the deer and cut it.
Yeah, exactly. Right in the window. So they for those who don't know, this restaurant was being protested, and the customers were being harassed as they would come in.
Yeah.
And so to put up with it as a protest, he started carving up the deer, because he specializes, from what I understand, in like those animals that are like game animals. Elk,
yeah, so that was the whole concept of the business. Was game animals, like concept, you know.
Exactly. So he started carving up a deer to protest them in his window.
Yeah.
And you know, it caused a bunch of news controversy for a while. And then, I mean, I don't know where it's at now, but it was a while. But there was another like follow up, like he went on Rogan and all this stuff, and he was like, "I'm booked for months."
Well, I'm sure he would be.
Yeah,
all
like,
it did is bring light to
exactly.
His business. Like, people are like, okay, I want to check this out. What's going on here?
Yeah,
you know? Like,
and then people will literally just go there just to stick it to the vegans.
Yeah.
You know, you'll have that as well, which is, you know, it's funny because, you know, someone like yourself, some of like the people you're working with, this guy from Antler, like, you're really on the same team in a way, because you are working towards a better environment for animals and for food and for people, that, you know, we need to eat animals. Like, you can't live a vegan lifestyle without supplementing.
No, and that's proven.
Yeah, like, that's proven. Like, you need your B12s.
And that's why I think it's a lot of dangerous. Like, if you're going to go vegan, you have to really supplement with a lot of things that meat provides.
Yeah.
A lot of the minerals and things like that.
Yeah.
Like B vitamins. And if you're not getting that, like, you can really damage your body.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know.
You won't see it. Like, you'll become a vegan. What most people do is they become a vegan and they're eating this, like, Western traditional diet, which was shit, you know, like grabbing fast food and stuff from the convenient mart, quickie mart and stuff like that, you know. It's like, and then they eat that way, and then all of a sudden they cut all that out and they're eating just fruits and vegetables and grains, and they notice immediately a difference. And it's great, but then, you know, 3 to 6 months down the road, when they're being depleted of all these vitamins and minerals that they're not going to get, or they have to really supplement.
Yeah.
Or they could get implants, but they would have to eat like 4 times as much in a serving.
Implants?
Yeah, like, so there's some things you can get, like, but you'd have to eat like 3 or 4 times as much, like an enormous amount of it.
Oh my God.
You know, comparative to like a 6 ounce of steak, like, you know, beans, like if you were some of those same vitamins, you'd have to eat like literally,
right,
like a shit ton of beans, and which nobody's going to do. You know, or lentils, or, you know, or so, and most people in society, in the way that we are, you know, we're go society, people aren't sitting down and making lentils and
getting up your quinoa and tofu
stuff,
and
or not, like, you know,
yeah,
just not doing it. So, you know, it's like, okay, I go vegan, but you have to really be careful with that. And you have to be really prepared to, like, okay, this is really a lifestyle that I have to, that I'm going to be a part of, that I could hurt my body, you know, if I don't do the right thing.
Because the number of vegans who eventually turn back to meat after a while is pretty staggering.
It's very staggering from what I've seen.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then they feel so much better. Like,
yeah.
You know, but it's all about making the smart choices with meat, you know, like,
yeah,
I believe. So,
yeah. Would you say, like, you have meat, like a meat every meal, or like, does your diet like consist of, like, you know,
almost every meal?
Yeah.
So usually my day is like, morning is like eggs and bacon, and then sometimes I eat like a little bit of yogurt, and I do some hemp hearts too. Like, I love that. Like, and with a little bit.
Yeah,
of
I put that in my oatmeal. I love that stuff. Yeah,
and then I usually we meal plan. So during the day I carry like two meals usually I eat, and it's usually grass-fed ground beef mixed in with something, and then or some chicken, or we do these organic beef sausages that are nitrate free. I'll take those, or I have fish, like a wild-caught salmon these are all products that we carry that all so
fish is another big one, because you know, you can get really bad fish.
Oh yeah, fish is, I don't eat a lot of fish.
Yeah, and you hear about that with
just
the environment and
because,
stuff too.
Exactly. One, farm-raised fish is just so horrible for you. Like, there's a good documentary, YouTube 2-hour documentary that Dr. McCullough has on his page, and you can just YouTube it. It's all about, he went all over the world and traveled, and it's all about the different fishing industries all over the world, and a lot of it focuses on the farm-raised fish. And one of the things that just struck me, it was like they went to, so you, like, when you go to Costco, I think they have that salmon, or even some of the local stores says Norwegian salmon, and it's these pretty packages, Norwegian farm-raised salmon, and you're thinking, oh, well, it's from Norway, it's gonna be good. Like, you know, you think Norway cold, you know, natural, fresh, you know, and then they're in the bay right there, or one of the bays, I can't remember where, they were in Norway, and he's with the biologists, and they're driving past in the boat the ponds where the farm-raised salmon are, and these guys are like in full hazmat suits, spraying pesticides in the water. And then they showed them dredging the bottom of the that lake there where they were at, and it's like the shit that was in there was just like, and it said it was killing the other environment there too, so the natural environment of the other animals. Then they went and they show a next clip, and it's with the biologist, and he's showing on the computer there, he's showing the PCB levels of salmon that's farm raised comparative to like other just conventional vegetables that have been sprayed with pesticides. It was off the chart. It was like 4 or 5 times as much as most conventional, you know, like GMO or just conventional fruits and vegetables. And they asked him, they said, would you eat that? Would you eat that for me? He said, no. Not even. I wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot pole. Any farm-raised salmon.
And people are eating this being like, I'm making a great choice.
Salmon is just like, no, it's awful. That's like one of the worst.
How do you make it sustainable then, like with fish, to make it sustainable?
There's a lot of new eco-farm type products coming out. Like one of the things we sell is an eco-farmed organic shrimp when I can't get the wild shrimp, and it's chemical-free. And so it's done, it's a third-party certification that comes in and monitors them. And they have to grow the shrimp like a certain way, you know, and they can't feed them antibiotics. They have to be in these ponds. There has to be a certain space between, they can't overcrowd. They can't, you know, there's all these different variables that they can't do. And then they can't process it with sodium triphosphate.
You can't,
sprays, you know,
barely can even say it.
No, polytriphosphates, you know, I'm late, I'm tired. So,
well, I mean, just like the word's so big,
people are like,
we're gonna eat
the
it.
sodium bisphate, you know, all these preservatives that they spray, these chemical sprays they spray on the fish, like on frozen, frozen shrimp and frozen fish. It's disgusting. Like people wonder why they defrost their shrimp, and it's like it just shrinks down.
Yeah,
it's like there's tons of water.
Right.
That's a chemical cocktail of water there was on that shrimp.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you think we're able to transition society to like this? I think you said regenerative
farming
and sustainable farming and like
fishing and
are we able to transition society to that and also meet demand, or is that kind of like?
So the studies that I'm seeing that are coming out that are by different stuff that's starting to come out. It's such a premature stage or infant stage.
Yeah.
That they are proving that they would be able to. There was a podcast just on Joe Rogan. They were talking about that too, as far as that they're proving that they could farm that way and still feed everybody and regenerate. And they're saying that it has to be that way because the soils, you can't keep doing what they're doing,
What is the definition of regenerative, versus kind of?
Regenerative would mean that you're able to, the soils would be able to be reused. Regenerative, that's the big part of it, I believe, is regenerative farming, as far as that you're nurturing the soil in a way to be able to continued to be used.
Okay.
And that plays into with the cattle farming and grass feeding and not grain feeding and things like that too.
Right, so that's more of a natural flow of life.
Tons of other things, yeah. So it all plays into, it's all cyclical, where it plays into each other. So. Yeah,
I remember watching. It's going back to the vegan thing. Watching a documentary, and they were churning. I think it was soy. They were getting soy out. It was this big machine, and you just see these seagulls, and I'm like, well, and you just because you see, look a little closer, it's all red behind the tractor because of all the animals that it's killing and churning up from all that, and so it's nothing is safe in this whole.
So that's what mine, So if you are total vegan do you know how many animals get killed comparatively? Get killed through farming crops like soy and. And canola and things like that, tons.
Which, again...
So are they any different than a cow?
Yeah, those oils are too. They're in everything.
Yeah, and everything.
Corn
oil, canola oil, soy products. It's cheap, and GMO, it's a filler, so it's terrible for you.
Yeah. So. Do you find time for the gym too, or do you just is that all from eating really healthy?
No, I go to the gym.
Okay, I was well, that protein.
I've been slacking lately, but I go to the gym.
As a business owner, I was just wondering. You got looking at the pipes and stuff.
In the morning I go. So
God,
I've been working out for years, so that's a normal part of my routine. So
it's a. I mean, everyone knows how. Well, not everyone, but the stresses of being a business owner.
Yeah,
and that you're doing this all yourself, but that you're able to find time to also, family, to eat healthy. But with a pretty restricted diet for the most part.
Yeah.
Go to the gym, that balance, man.
It's hard. It's not 100%. I can't say
how much do you sleep?
Jocko, where I get up 4:30.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Pictures of Instagram on my watch. And I'm up at the gym.
Do you sleep? Do you get?
Yeah, I mean, 6 hours usually.
Wow.
It's so. And I try to work out. It's got to be at least. Do I do the full 5 sometimes? No, sometimes I don't. Working out. So, but you have to, man. That's mental health too.
It's huge, yeah.
So it's huge.
Yeah, I've talked about that so much on the podcast and what
then
exercise
that work balance too, being at home and I run everything from my phone, so it's constantly having to be attached to the phone, and your family's fighting for your attention, and you're having to be on the phone. Right,
trying to make an order and
so hard. Oh, hey, no, hold on. My son Kieran wanting to play lightsabers right at that moment, or gets up and he's just wanting to interact and wants attention. Oh no, hold on, Kieran. I just got an order come in, or I got a live chat with a customer. I got, you got to do all that. A small business owner, it's not.
It's wild.
It's wild. It's hard. It's not easy. It's, there's many nights I go to bed and I'm all of a sudden you get really tired, and that's when you really get worn on, and then all the shit from the day and the fear
right.
starts coming in, and like stuff you got to do for tomorrow, the uncertainty of the week and how it's going to turn out sales wise. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that. There's a lot of stuff coming out now too, where they're really encouraging people to share things about mental health. And
well, yeah, I mean, that's like, I'm very involved in the space, doing speaking, and
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Like,
thank you.
I think that's awesome, because I think it's really demonized. Like
it is, yeah.
Like I have like my entrepreneur culture on my Facebook page is all these guys that just going after it and posting stuff, but really, if you looked underneath the hood, there's probably a lot of it's like just it's bullshit. You know?
Oh, for
it's
sure,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, guys are doing that, but
you know, I'm involved with a workplace. It's more like a workplace mental health organization. But I've also had people on this podcast who are entrepreneurs, and that's like a big, because it's that hustle culture.
Yeah.
That grind every day, get up early, business, money. Like,
do you think people want to see pictures of me doing that, or they want to, like, or and that's going to be validated, or do you think they want to hear me bitching and complaining?
Yeah, exactly.
Or having my moments of despair.
Yeah, where your hair is messy, and you're just like, fuck.
Like, I wake up in the morning and my back hurts. This hurts.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh shit, I got to go be in that truck for 14 hours.
You know,
drive to Montreal and
oh my God,
coordinate everything.
And like, as an entrepreneur, you know, benefit. You don't have the luxury of having all that stuff. It's all on.
No.
It's admirable for the people who choose this life because they have a dream or a vision or goals that they want to do. And I'm you know, even in my small little world of starting the podcast and figuring out all the, you know, operating the podcast like it's a business, but not, you know, at this time doing money wise, but like, so taking that to the next level where your whole life is like dependent on what you're going to put into it that day, week, that month, that year,
you know,
the fluctuations of good months and bad months. And like, man,
uncertainty, and it's every week.
Yeah.
It's every week. There's that uncertainty. I'm looking at my phone. I'm tracking my sales. I'm looking at my marketing. Hey, is this working? Or should we be doing this? Or should we be doing that? And you have to really you got to set that aside before you go to bed and just be really okay with that. You know?
Yeah. You have to be like very strong. Like, I know we're talking about the mental health, but like too strong mentally as well. Like, not to say you don't have slip ups or struggles, but
I think that's where it comes into, like, I have and I'm not going to get into a conversation about religion, and this isn't about religion, it's about being spiritual. It's like you really have to have a connection with something greater than yourself. And, you know, I believe I have that connection, you know, where I rely a lot on my faith and, you know, and being observant and gratitude and, you know, being observant of others and what they're going through too on a day-to-day basis, whether it's like an old man at the corner trying to trudge through the snow and he's crippled and he's, you know, like, shit, like, look what I got, you know, like, so look, imagine the challenges that guy goes through and has to have a positive, like,
for sure,
look on life, you know?
Yeah.
So, and, you know, especially here in Ottawa, it's not, I give entrepreneurs a lot of credit for starting business here. It's not very encouraged compared to where I came from. It's not supported.
Yeah, it's
certain mentality here. It's very which there's nothing wrong with that. Government and tech, and it's just entrepreneurs are like kind of almost looked down upon. You know, in a way, it's weird.
Yeah, it's.
And I get that same feedback from other people I talk to. They're like, yeah, it's not like, or I used to run a business, or I run a business, or they're not very supportive, or, you know. And so I give people credit, man, here starting businesses here.
Yeah, I'm noticing
challenges are huge here.
A lot of, and especially young women, are really getting into it, which is interesting.
A lot.
You know, I had Mallory Rowan on a lot of episodes ago. Regan Bradley was just on a little bit. And it's interesting to talk to them and follow their journey and where they've went. Like Regan, for instance, is trying to break into the cannabis space.
Awesome.
Mallory started like an online fitness kind of apparel business, but it has now transitioned into a business without burnout coach type thing.
Okay.
Where she helps other entrepreneurs
start
their business goals without or doing it more healthy wise instead of like,
I get it.
You know, as I'm sure you know,
get-go, like, you know, to where they are on a good track, you know.
Right. And so you're not doing it in healthy ways from lessons she's learned from going through like the crazy burnout of trying to operate your own business.
Okay.
You know,
cool.
But again, just like, it's so admirable.
Nothing to knock men, but women are great at being entrepreneurs. They have women's intuition is like huge.
Yeah.
I rely on a lot of women for decisions made, including my own wife. Like I go, that's my go-to first usually. And I tend to like to dealing with women usually in more of a business setting.
A lot of the time they're like better networkers.
They're more attention to detail.
Yeah.
I'm a very attention to detail person and very creative, and I find that I click better with dealing with women when it comes to business decisions than I do with a lot of men.
I feel with guys sometimes, not to say it doesn't happen with everybody, but like the dick swinging competition, especially if it's like a hard-nosed business guy who's really difficult, and you're just not going to move them or persuade, like they're just like fists down. You're just like, oh my God, it's a lot. Women might not agree with you, but it seems
women
a lot more
tend
reasonable.
To think outside of the, use a cliche term, but think more outside the box.
A lot of the time.
So I think so.
I've always gotten like, and like my boss is a woman, and the boss above that is a woman, and you know, it's, I don't know.
I don't know what it is.
I love it.
That's just my take on it. You know, it's like,
and like a lot of them are incredibly inspiring because not only to do it, you know, with the issues that women have to deal with in the workplace, but also the economy that we're in, that you're taking a chance as a young person to try in this turbulent economy where you like, it's for the, you know, people making 70 grand, it sometimes can be hard for them to get by in certain cases, especially if you have kids.
Yeah. 70 grand doesn't get you very far.
Yeah, which is wild.
My mom's from Arizona. Like, you know, she lives there. The cost of living is like nil there. And like, I'm just like, my mom tells me she makes, and they're going to buy a house and do all this stuff. And I'm like shit, Mom, good. You know,
it's a wild world.
I told my mom what we're doing here and what we're making. She's like, yeah, it was just funny. Like, I'm driving. I was at the A&W getting an A&W burger. It's like the once fast food place I'll eat once in a while because I know where their meat comes from.
Good to know. There we go.
And she was listening to the drive-thru, and she's like, "Oh, that will be $11 for it." And my mom went, "What? You know what? How much? You know?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, that's just Canada. Like, that's how much things cost here."
Yeah, it was probably just like a teen burger with some.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. You know, it was a Uncle Burger with some, you know, it was about it. 9, 10, plus 10.
Yeah, it's wild. I love going to America and comparing prices, like especially on booze. Like I drove to Boston.
Yeah.
And we were coming back in New Hampshire.
One place I've never been. Boston seems so awesome.
Oh,
my wife said she loves it.
What a great city. It reminded me a lot of Ottawa in a way, with the fact that it's not. I mean, we were on a weekend, so I didn't see like the financial district.
Huh? Like,
that it's historic in a way.
Boston's very historic.
Yeah, like it's kind of a little. Again, I was on a weekend, so I can't speak to like, when the workday's on. But it was like a little slower speed. It wasn't like super wild, busy. A lot of like historic monuments and landmarks and statues and stuff like that. Which again, this is downtown, but I appreciate it. I really like the city.
People seem fantastic there. That in Chicago, and so I've been to Chicago a couple times too. Like it's just
coming back though through New Hampshire with no sales tax, which I totally wasn't used to.
Yeah,
and like getting like a 60 of gin for like $20. I'm like, this is awesome.
Exactly. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like some random town. I was like, do you know how much this would have cost me in Canada? Like $80.
Yeah.
Like
exactly. So
what a different world.
It goes back to like starting businesses here and stuff. There's so many costs involved. And it's like, you know, it's like, and then they get going and they're like, oh man, this is like an uphill battle. This is crazy.
Well, there must be a ton that like just don't make it.
No, tons. Like I was just at the bank. I'm talking to my banker. Good relationship with TD over there in Canada, and it's like, yeah, the banks just don't. Like, there's too much of a risk. Small businesses nowadays in this economy, they won't lend them any money for the most part. Like that's what he told me.
Yeah,
it's like just too high a risk unless you got some serious collateral, like put your house up or this or that or some kind of property but they just won't give money for that. So
yeah, it's
because the fault rate is huge.
Yeah,
like failing. So.
Yeah, well, you see restaurants go up and go down, and you're just. Like, what? Okay, yeah. Like, and
there's so many smart people here in Canada. Like, it's a lot of smart people with a lot of great ideas. They try to bring them out, bring them to fruition, and it's like it's such an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think the internet's changing
that.
that.
You can tell that it's been you can tell in my voice it's frustrating.
Yeah. Do you like?
I grew up in the U.S. and I've done business there, so it's like it's been a battle ever since I got here.
Right.
With the way things are done. So, and I don't blame the people. Like, it's just, it's not that. It's just the regulations, the costs, it's the reception of it, and
Yeah.
stuff. And you don't see a lot of small businesses thriving, so people are not. They almost look down.
Well, they don't
on
want
that
to. Yeah.
custom it. They don't want to support that. They want to support the big, what they're used to.
Well, it's a little more expensive.
Or the big back stores.
Yeah.
Or the big, or it's just, or it's a well-known brand that's big here that's monopolized. Everything's very monopolized here, extremely. There's not a lot of
interesting.
room for,
Yeah.
In the U.S., there's a lot of different monopolies, but there's so many people there. It's 330 million people.
That's true. That's
so
true.
it's like there's room for you to thrive, and consumers in general in America are very marketed to totally different, and they're a consumer type society. So it's like I said, people that have money there that can't afford it still buy stuff and live way beyond their means. It's like.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you have the answer, but like, is Ottawa like where you're hoping like to keep growing, like, or is like maybe going to the States might be easier, like?
My goal long term is to build our business, get into Toronto. Because I believe that market it's a different market. It's a bigger market.
Yeah.
We had some traction there before. We worked a couple different times where we were starting to, we wanted to open there. Just wasn't the right fit at the right time. So
right.
I can't be there. I can't have a presence there. So I have to have somebody manage it. So.
Right. Yeah.
So just they weren't set up the way that it needed to be, and we weren't. Now we're at that place where we could do that. So that's my next step. I'm deciding when we want to go into there.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually try to go nationwide. So
yeah, because you look at, I mean, not comparing you at all to any of them, but those kind of like the food box type situations with the growing
meal
popularity.
Kits.
Yeah,
good food. I follow a lot of their CEOs and their stuff on LinkedIn and HelloFresh, and I really appreciate what they do because it's like that's amazing what they're doing with all that.
Well, yeah, like there's the convenience, there's the health aspect of, and then like that's to me like, I mean, it's such a good niche. Because people want meat and like everything we talked about beforehand.
They want the convenience. They want. They like the fact that it's not this convenience. It's their door. It's the convenience that they have this kit now that kind of gives them instructions to do. I hear the feedback. Because I have a lot of customers that buy our products and they supplement with good food, good food or HelloFresh. Usually good food. A lot of it's like I see more good food than HelloFresh than anything have a presence here.
Right.
So. And so they'll supplement with both, so they can have their meal plan. They can make their other meals at home with good quality, and then they have their good food box that has their already pre-made, ready to go, that they can just put the stuff together in a pinch. Deliver to the door. And it's not that much more than, I'm not trying to be an advocate for good food.
No, I know what you're saying.
I follow a lot of their stuff, and I think it's really amazing. Like, I really appreciate it from a business standpoint.
Absolutely, and
what they continue to do.
Even like people ask me, "Oh, who's on your podcast tonight?" Explain it, and they're like, "Oh, that's such a good idea." Like people don't know that the options there also for meat that you can, buy meat and and it will come right to your door, and it's good and it's awesome.
So awesome!
I'm looking forward to the summer and getting some of those steaks for sure.
Okay, well, you can
hitting on the barbecue
all year long, Ryan. You know that, right?
I know. I live in an apartment, so I can't. I have to wait till I get up to the cottage.
All right, well, I get it. So, anything else that you want to talk about?
The coupon code. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah,
I'll let you announce that.
So
that sounds cool.
We had a coupon code that for your listener.
My first bit of business, people. We're moving on up,
and it's in the red. Is that what
Life in Red.
Life in Red. So
all one word.
And that's entitled to you to 10% off and free delivery on our website. Life in Red.
Baby. So we'll share that on social media.
Check out, and if you could share that, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listeners an opportunity to try us out.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely share that all around. Where can people, they want to order from you? Where's that Facebook page? Where's the website?
So right off the website, it's farmtoforkdelivery.ca. Farm, the number 2, fork delivery, one word. .ca. You can follow us on Facebook at Farm to Fork Delivery, and also on Instagram. We're at Farm to Fork Delivery.
Perfect.
So awesome.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you coming in. This was a really great conversation. Go check them out. Get some of that good, tasty, good for you meat, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, man.
You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit